110 in the middle of the night. Highway 401, where are you taking me? Baby, there's only one thing on my... I'm driving 110 in the middle of the night. Highway 401, where are you taking me? Baby, there's only one thing on my mind, and it's everything to do with you and me. The sound of your voice echoes in my mind as I'm watching the white lines blur in the amber light. There's only one thing that I wanted to do today, and it seems like it's 1,000,000 miles away. So I'll drive and drive and drive and meditate. Maybe this trip will end up at your face. So if you'll come to me when I get to you, maybe there's nothing we can't do. I promise I'll be there for you every night. Promise I'll do what I can to make it right. You'll never know a love so true, baby, when I get to you. So that was the opening sequence of my song, When I Get to You, on Isolation Dreams. I started recording the song back in 2015 with a number of different inspirations going on at the time. One of the things that was a main inspiration is I wanted to use this guitar. This is an Ovation Celebrity Deluxe Long Neck Edition, which I think the original idea was to have it tuned to drop D, a little bit extra length, holds the low notes a little bit better, and I love this guitar. What I have it tuned to is as if it's a baritone guitar without string 1. So it starts at a B. Isn't that nice? B, E, A, D, F sharp, B. So when I first started putting the song together, it started out as a chord pattern. It started like this. There was no lyrics to the song or anything like that. I just liked the sound of it. This is one of the most un-ovation sounding ovations. Maybe it's an exception to the line or whatever. I've never seen or heard of them since the year where I got this as an amazing Christmas present. I was like, here, why don't you play some Christmas songs for the kids on this? And this came out in the case, and I was like, are you serious? I've done nothing to this guitar other than my little branding there of the bear paw, which you'll see. No electronic modifications, no nothing. To accommodate the tuning, this string 6 starts at a 64, and I don't know what the rest of them are. I had to piece it together to find a gauge setting that would work well with the tuning boat. The only issue with a guitar tune this low is some of the subtleties in very complex chords are not really forward enough. The low frequencies tend to fight a little bit. So instead of taking this amazing baritone guitar, capoing at fret 7, effectively making it a non-baritone guitar, I recorded recorded the song on another guitar altogether. My scratch track is acoustic and vocal at the same time, and that's what I use as my sort of click track to play along with. I used my Samick cedar top guitar for that, just with a mic in front of it. But I found in listening to the song, I wanted a little bit more aggression to it, as I was starting to get lyrical ideas to it. I found I could bring the guitar back a little bit in the aggression of the playing, and put it into the not necessarily aggressive lyrics, but the longing of the lyrics, the dissatisfaction. There's a thing with suspended chords or incomplete or extended voicing chords that just begs the emotive response of incompleteness. Like, starts out with a plain old B minor up here. So it's like an A6. So there's an incomplete feeling in that. And I wanted to make it so that when I hit the chorus with the lyrics that we're developing, I wanted some completion to sound in there. So the lyrics, as you just heard, were, driving, dreaming, thinking about somebody that you're not with, that you want to be with and can't be with. But then when the chorus hits, it's where all the completeness of almost imagining the final version of yourself and this other person coming together, and how wonderful that would be. So there's the general discontentment of the incomplete chords, as opposed to the hit of the chorus was regular old D chord. There's like A7, which generally sounds a little bit odd. Seventh chords do that, but the A7 sus4, they're incomplete sounding chords. They're reaching. So your ear may hear. So it's like a B minor 7 sus2, but it actually drops down to the A on the bass. But the bass in there actually continues on just one note. Now the bass in that song is actually interesting. I recorded 2 different bass parts. The original recording of this happened in 2015, and the follow-up to the finished product that on Isolation Dreams happened just a few months ago, April of 2020. So we're talking 5 years anyways apart. The first bass track that I did was on my Tokai jazz bass, fretless bass, and in the last year and a bit, I've had come into my collection a Godin A4 fretless, which you'll hear all through Isolation Dreams. So I wanted to sort of re-record the bass with the new bass to see if I could do anything different, if there was any different inspirations, and there wasn't. So what I did was I set about relearning the part that I laid down in 5 years ago, and I left both bass parts intact. The Tokai jazz is slightly to the left, and the Godin A4 is slightly to the right. Both are pretty much unaffected except for some EQ and maybe some compression, but that's about it. So there's actually 2 bass tracks in there, and if you can listen with headphones on, if you've got some decent headphones where you can hear that, you'll hear a little bit of difference between them, whether it's a little bit of vibrato or something like that, or just the tone of it. I like to keep the bass very forward in my mixes. That's just the way I work, and so you may hear that. So further on to that, you'll also may notice at the end of the song, there's a tail of about 40 seconds of highway sounds. It sounds like, cars passing in the night, and that's exactly what it was. This was a little bit of serendipity to hear something that I'd recorded many years previous actually come to be very applicable. I guess it's kind of like the way that, a lyricist will, write down their ideas on any surface. Grab a Kleenex box, or your child as they're running by and write a lyric down on their back or something like that. What I did was I played a gig many years ago in Toronto, and I had taken along my Eddie Roll R09 stereo field recorder, or whatever you'd want to call it, and recorded excerpts of the gig because it was something where I was sitting in with some people I'd never played with before, and I wanted to have a record of it just to hear how everything went. So the Eddie Roll R09 is a brilliant device. There's many evolutions of it since then, but what it can do is it can record in 44.1 kilohertz, 24-bit wave audio, or you can dumb it right down to like 16-bit MP3 if you want something that doesn't sound like you'd want to actually listen to it. So driving back from this gig, I thought what might sound kind of interesting. So I took this field recorder, I put my shirt that I wore during the gig, which was all sweaty, on the dashboard of the car. I turned off the radio. I opened up the back windows of the car slightly. So with my field recorder on the dashboard, I just hit record and I drove. And we're talking the distance probably between Mississauga and Toronto. If you're familiar with the area, you'll probably have a mental image in your mind right now. So in the opening lines of the lyrics, it was just so serendipitous the way this came together. The highway sounds were recorded many years before the lyrics came to be. 2 or 3 years anyways. So I'm driving 110 in the middle of the night, 110 kilometers, not miles, 110 in the middle of the night, Highway 401, where are you taking me? Baby, there's only one thing on my mind, and it's everything to do with you and me. So I like to play on contrasts and maybe things that don't make sense or are improbable. I knew where I was going, but I imagined myself as a character in some kind of narrative where I could say, where are you taking me? And then I found myself, the way an actor would find themselves in character for a part they're studying. And years after hearing this and hearing the sound of the highway, having the guitar part kind of already recorded, I started to, not just the guitar part, but the guitar, bass, and drums. But I had no lyrics at that point. I started to find that these 3 points of time in my life were starting to connect, and that's where this song was born, which is kind of a cool thing for me. So driving 110 in the middle of the night, Highway 401, where are you taking me? I knew exactly where I was going. I was going home. It's probably 3:30, 4 in the morning. Anyways, I was due to get home by sunup. And then as the tension of the chord progression and that the constant of the bass, the bass propelling things on one note, right, and the the chords slightly changing but not changing. They're not suspended, but they are incomplete sounding. The lyrics just started to flow. Baby, there's only one thing on my mind, and it's everything to do with you and me. So to say that there's one thing, but it's everything, there's a tension in that statement as well. So onwards with the arrangement. It was during the recording of Isolation Dreams that a lot of these things started to come together. And as I had the lyrics, I don't know, the lyrics were probably 2 years old at this point, and I never really had a firm arrangement. So I had the acoustic track. I had an electric rhythm track that I added in just for some clarity, some crispness. The two bass tracks and the percussion that I had down, and as I sat with my guitar, I would be able to play it. So I wanted some more aggression to it. So I started to think, instead of having, like a meditative journey on the drive, why not have angst? And who hasn't felt that angst for somebody that you long for? So again, hopping back in character, the heavily distorted guitar that's in there started to play the role of but I guess both the angel and the devil on the shoulder, the call and answer of the vocal, the lyric, and the guitar, and it started to come together as like, I would imagine as if and I'm not comparing myself to any particular guitar player, but in my mind was the idea of what if Whitesnake recorded a country song? And it sounds kind of funny because it probably wouldn't. But it's like, I wanted the heft and the propulsion and the instrumentation of like 80s style power ballad with the intimacy and down to earthness of a country song. And that's what country's great for. Country is all about real life. There's not really a lot of, extraneous concepts in there. Not a lot of heavy concepts. It's real life stuff. People would say, "Oh, it's all about pickup trucks and beer." Well, people that listen to that, guess what they do? They drive pickup trucks and they like to drink beer. So if you listen back to the song on the CD, you'll notice this tail I was talking about at the end, this almost 40-second tail of highway sounds. That was recorded right in my car, which is kind of a cool thing to listen back to now, because I can, even when I'm talking about it now, I can imagine, the white lines on the highway going by. I drove in the center lane so that I'd have cars pass me on either side. I drove at the speed limit of 100 kilometers an hour so that I knew people would pass me, because nobody drives 100 on the 401. And then what I did at the end, and just before the song went into mastering, was I found that there was something just a little bit ambient about the song that I didn't quite like. So what I did was I took one of the highway tracks, or the highway track, the stereo track, split it into two, made a second track, and flipped it backwards so that one of the tracks is playing front to back and the other one is playing back to front, and I don't remember which ear has which in it right now. But you'll notice that if you hear the sound, if you're listening through headphones or really good speakers or whatever, you'll hear a car pass on one side and then it sounds like another car passes you on the other side. And that's that effect right there. The stereo track split into two, flipped around, gobs of reverb on these things. If you hear these things in soloed, just through the speakers, there's absolutely no way that effect can occur in real life. There's no way you'd get that much reverberant effect on in the middle of a highway. But for the atmospheric effect, I think it worked okay in the final mix. I have my skylight open. You may have just heard the car pass on the road outside. It's kind of cool to mention that at the time. Anyway, so yeah, other than some like picky techie bits on editing, that's how the song started. A guitar track that I wanted to use this guitar on, never ended up using it. The inspiration of wanting like an aggressive ballad, if there could be such a thing. Not having to shout or yell or anything. You'll also notice there's no harmony vocals on these, or on any of the songs that I record, because I don't want any extraneous bits of the final produced version of the song to be so integral that if I perform it live as a guy on a guitar, that you'll really notice them missing. So, guitar solos aside on that song, which do play a larger part than in most of my other songs, you'll hear pretty much just me and my singing live with that one. So it was a fun song to conceive. It took place over a long, long time, with a lot of different bits of inspiration coming together. Some not so predictable things happening, like the car sound that I recorded just for fun, 5 years, or I guess maybe 4 years later, coming to play a part in the arrangement of a final piece. Lyrical ideas of tension, longing, love, incomplete chords versus complete sounding chords. There's a rise and fall of tension through that, and that's my biggest goal in all the songs that I write. I really believe that I need to be able to engage the listener emotionally through the lyrics, and maybe physically as well through things like a propulsive bass line, or just in this case, like a guitar part that just kind of rips out, and it's me trying to shred a little bit. That's the inside the song take on When I Get to You. And again, that's another play of tensions. When I get to you, you could say when I get to you, we'll do this, as in when I arrive to you, or if you just look at the words when I get to you, it's like when I annoy you, maybe. So yes, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, we are 21:52 deep in this right now, so chances are nobody's watching at this point. So maybe I could just start taking off all my clothes now, and nobody will really notice, but it probably won't, because somebody will probably flag it somehow on YouTube. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your support emotionally and creatively, and we'll see you next time on the next edition of Inside the Song. I'm driving 110 in the middle of the night, Highway 401, where are you taking me?